You can't tell a customer what to do, even if it results in $9,000 worth of damage. The customer is always right, right? That was the attitude of all upper management at the company I used to work for. Despite us warehouse workers having the entire system down pat, the customers who would pick up their goods always seemed to know better. At first it was small things, telling us how to bag a lounge properly, as they watched and corrected us, demanding that we open up an item, exposing it to the dirty elements in the warehouse, then throwing a tantrum and expecting us to clean that item we just unwrapped and repackage it, which became bigger things like customers abusing us if we wouldn't load up a product, or hurry up with unloading something, usually resulting in an injury for one of the warehouse workers. Naturally, I would always try and reason with customers, which would result in customer complaints, which resulted in the area manager realizing a company-wide email detailed that, in every scenario we could imagine, we had to do what the customer said, especially when it came to picking up their goods at either a store or warehouse. The email finished with a morale-boosting statement that, if any feedback or complaints against a worker involving correcting or contradicting a customer made its way to the AM, that worker would be written up with an official warning. A few weeks later we had a transfer from our interstate warehouse. Included in that transfer was a stack of customer pickups. I signed off on the transfer paper and the sales associates began calling customers and organizing pickups. Most of the pickups go smoothly until we get to the douche with the white pants, or white pants McGee. McGee rocks up in a battered flatbed truck, with his polo with popped collar and his slicked back hair. He scans the warehouse and clicks his fingers at me. I reluctantly walk over and he stares at me expectantly. Me, yes sir? McGee, you have my sofa. Me, are you picking up, sir? McGee, well, I won't be picking anything up. You boys are going to load it? He chuckles as he says this. Me, well sir, as the sales associate would have told you, warehouse staff are unable to load anything up, and it's the customer's responsibility. McGee, cuts me off, yeah, I'm sure your manager would be pissed knowing you cost them a $9,000 sale. I sigh and check the paperwork. This guy has a 4-seater sofa bed. Heavy, cumbersome, and will definitely be too big for the vehicle he selected. McGee sees me checking the paperwork and smirks. McGee, just do what I say and it'll be easier for all of you. Me. And what would you like us to do? McGee, load it up, and I'll take it from there. Me, okay sir, just sign the paperwork. McGee signs off on the pickup and that he's taking responsibility for transporting his goods. Myself and 4 other guys grab this monster of a sofa and load it up with a little difficulty. I make an attempt to see if this guy needs any more help and he snaps at me. McGee, I got this, chief. Let me do my thing. I shrug. The guy salutes us, jumps into his car, without strapping anything down. I go to stop him and offer him some straps, but he slams the car into drive and begins driving at breakneck speed towards the exit area and towards the main road. Me and the boys watch, holding our breath as the jackass takes a turn at full speed. The sofa kicks up a bit, slams into the side of the truck. McGee slams on the brakes as he nears the main road. The sofa kicks up, hits the roof of the truck and flips off, hitting the gravel road hard. The warehouse erupts in laughter, as a sales associate rushes out to see what the commotion was. A few minutes later the AM is on the phone wanting to know what happened. I politely explain that the customer asked us to load up and only load up, and that he was happy to take care of the sofa once it was in the back of his truck. There was a pause and I also happily pointed out that I could bring the signed off/completed customer pickup form to the AM's office. Another long pause and the AM said, "Don't bother." In the end, the sofa was damaged and there were no repercussions as we did exactly what the customer instructed us to do. Now to the comments. Please read sidebar completely before commenting. Have had 33 bans so far from rule violations in this comment section. It's like the time I bought a fridge and the manufacturer's measurements were wrong. It should have fit through my doors but the delivery guy said it wouldn't and explained why. I argued with him for a minute and he said, well, This happens a few times a month, and once I take it out of the box it's harder to return. He even told me which brand, of the style I wanted, would fit through my doors. I immediately realized I should listen to him and save both of us a lot of hassle, like some of the people on r/legal advice. Dude, you already have a lawyer, listen to them. Next house I have will have a double door on it somewhere. I hate wrestling furniture through 32 to 36 doors. How nice to be able to make that decision. Me and my best friend's first APT. Never had a couch because the entryway had this shitty skinny hallway that we couldn't fit anything through. This was fun to read. Never gets old to see this instant karma for being a dick with people that know their job. The problem is, organizations like this will allow the customer to bring it back and get a new one 9/10 times. Great, those organizations deserve to lose money. OMG, a 4-seat sofa bed would be unbelievably heavy. The company I worked for stopped carrying sofa beds, period, because they're so heavy, also uncomfortable, and once the frames get damaged a pita. And the largest we carried were 3-seaters. I guess McGee hadn't learned about inertia, either. We have a 3-seat sofa bed and that thing weighs easily more than 250 pounds. The guys delivering it were complaining about the 5 separate packages it came in being so heavy, and the moving company had trouble moving it around even after partially taking it apart. I can hardly move that thing on my smooth living room floor. I can only imagine how ridiculously hard a 4-seater would be to load onto a truck. Must have made a hell of a noise falling onto the street. I can hardly move that thing on my smooth living room floor. Invest in those slider things that you put under the legs. They make moving heavy shit so much easier. My friend was working in a decent restaurant and a guy snapped his fingers at her. She mentioned it to her boss, who asked the guy to leave. I worked retail and this mean-looking woman would snap her finger at me 2 to 3 times. I would just ignore her. Eventually she walks up to me and spins me around, and said, "Why didn't you come help me when I called you over?" I simply replied with, "Sorry miss, I thought you were looking for your dog," as I don't respond to finger snaps. She storms out of the store saying how she would have bought so much stuff if I weren't so rude. She later called to complain to the manager. Unfortunately for her, I was the manager, and simply told her to treat our employees with respect if she wants service in our store. She never came back again, so I assume she needs to be a witch to get stuff done. OP replied, "I was the manager. That plot twist was nothing short of incredible." The owner of the shop I worked at before college paid me to deliver some speakers 500 miles, one way, because they had shipped them twice commercially and both times, they were damaged. The commercial carrier refused to pay any more damage claims, so I went in person. I get there and start to unpack them and the customer says wait. I was undoing the packaging the way the box instructions said to, stripping it down from the top so that the bases stay on the ground. You have to cut the box in the corners and then pull the styrofoam off. He says don't unpack it like that because then if I move, I won't have the boxes anymore. Turns out he was laying the speakers on their front and pulling them out the bottom. I saw immediately why the tweeters on these $28,000 speakers were damaged in shipping. The speakers weighed something like 260 pounds each and he was balancing them on the tweeters, through the styrofoam, as he slid them out. Did he try and get a new one out of you guys? OP replied. He'd just load it back up, and take it the rest of the way home and then call and complain about being given a damaged sofa. Source, used to be a warehouse worker in a furniture store. I'd love to see him loading that monstrosity back up by himself.